Hey, girl. Hey, girl. Hey.
How we doing?
Episode number 4. I feel like I'm really impressed with us. I'm really proud of us.
I really am too. And I have to say, like, I posted this on social this past week. All of the people that have just come out of the woodwork just to be like crushing it, so relatable. Thank you. And like, we did not expect.
No.
We were
I just
like,
had
we're
one of my
try.
friends be like, I remember you were on a podcast once. Do you like to host? Do you like to be on? And I was like, I can't believe anybody remembered I was ever on a podcast, but also like so nice of you to reach out and be like, how's it going? Do you like to host your own podcast? And I said, I like to host better because we have a lot of fun on this.
Yeah, no, we're having a great time.
But also I feel like it's like a really good partnership. Like today, Taylor was like, I just want to make sure I'm carrying my own. And I'm like, dude, I wouldn't have done anything if you weren't like, did we get this done?
Because the reality of it is I'm always like, I'm going to type this thing up for us to send to so-and-so. And Jordan's like, right. So I'll correct that entire thing the second that I have the opportunity.
I just am better at like formatting
Yeah, no,
it.
it's me and the Word documents still get along.
So
which
it
is,
just made it look, more digestible.
Yeah. Okay,
Than-
great.
But whatever.
Your teeth look really great.
I'm wearing my Invisalign.
But they look, I don't know if it's giving them a nice gloss or something.
I think it
but
might
they
be
look
the gloss.
really good.
But if I have like a little like sometime, well, I'm actually learning to talk with them better. 5 more weeks.
I wouldn't have.
5 more weeks and I'm good.
Okay.
And they'll be like so straight. I can't say white.
They look very straight as it is.
Thank you.
They look great.
I just smiled at the camera if you're not watching. A little creepy.
So
how we doing?
Yeah, we're great. It's fucking treacherous outside.
Yeah, it is. That day that it was downpouring nonstop, that's the day we're recording.
Yeah, and it's like frigid.
I think it hailed this morning.
And I honestly had to put a little bit of light glam on because I'm not quite in the space yet where I can just... I was looking like Schmeagol. Like, I'm not even joking.
I'm not going to lie. I put a little bit on, and then I taught a fitness class, and I got stuck in the garage. So I didn't have time to prep.
Re-glam?
The prep.
Re-glam, the basic glam.
This is all you get from me.
Yeah, no, I was like,
Not to mention the lighting in here is just great.
Yeah, once we have our own production studio up and going, this is going to be great. But yeah, no, I was like, me and Schmeagol are both like, we're both cold. We both got like the off-putting face thing going. We each have 8 hairs on our head. So like that's what I was giving. And I was like, I have to.
And each are gorgy.
I was like, I have to do something here. So that brought me to life like a tad, but otherwise miserable day.
Yeah, it's been, I literally was like, I wish I could have just like been on my couch cuddling all day.
Oh my God, I know, me too. And today was not like a work heavy, I mean like personal endeavors heavy for me, but not like a work heavy day for me.
See,
so
and it was
I was
opposite.
like,
usually it's personal endeavors, but my work was pretty busy today.
Bumping today.
That's why I wasn't really talking to you.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I'm like, what the fuck is this bitch doing?
Guys, sorry, I have 5 things to get done, and
She's
then
like,
I'll
let me
get
tend
back
to
to
these
you.
80 other things, and then I'll get to you eventually. And I'm like, okay. As I'm like twiddling my thumbs. But.
Yeah, no. But I had a good day, like a pretty good day. Pretty good week, I would say. Busy, like really fucking busy, and I'm ready for it all to slow down, and it's not going to.
No, my next week and a half is like poppin'.
Like fun stuff?
Kind of. We have a couple events. We have a couple work events.
Tomorrow, spending the day together.
Tomorrow, this weekend, we have some work events. I'm subbing like a bunch of classes that I forgot I was subbing.
Yeah, always. When you say
like a
yes,
month ago, you were like, I will definitely pick that Tuesday up from you. And then you're like, shit.
Like, why did I do that to myself?
So I have a bunch of that.
Yeah.
Are you coming to the concert on Friday?
Jesslyn, maybe. I have tickets. Okay, here is like the reality of my life. There's a studio opening on Friday, so I'm going to that. But that's at 6.
Yeah.
Then my cousin bought tickets to a comedian. That's at 7:30. Jesslyn is at what, 7?
7:30, I think.
Yeah. So I'm like, at this point, like I'm kind of fucked.
Oh.
I like overbooked myself in so many ways because I do have tickets to Jesslyn, and I have tickets to this comedian, and I also have a studio opening.
Wow.
So,
booked and busy she is.
I am
a girl on the go.
I would likely just be like, I'm just going to namaste in my bed and not do anything. But I don't know. I would like to because I love her. Like,
I know you
actually
do.
love
you
her.
You threatened my life when you were like, if you guys go without me, I'll never speak to you again.
I know. So I don't know. I haven't really yet decided.
Okay. We'll follow up there.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be really jealous on all ends.
I'll send you vids.
Yeah, I know, but it's like not the same.
No, it never is at all.
It's like not the same.
It's not even close.
But yeah, I feel like we've got like a heavy episode today.
We do.
Which feels like so.
Let's talk trauma.
So like dynamic to go, or like not dynamic, but like so like opposite to go from like to like let's talk serious.
Yeah, I mean, it can still be. It doesn't have to be like. It can still be light, but I think that it's a good, especially with what we're trying to accomplish with the whole podcast. I think it's a good insight into us a little bit that you can't quite get from not so deep conversations.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think but we're talking trauma today. We're getting into the old eating disorder situs,
the fun stuff.
Yeah, but you know what? It's very taboo. It's not talked about in the way that like I think we just want to bring awareness and like a safe space to almost.
Yeah,
you know,
I think it's a really like. You know, when we were talking about it, I was like, it's such a sticky subject that, like, you know, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I want to tell my experience of it without causing trauma to others.
Yeah.
And just like truly stating, you know, this is our stories, our point of view. You know, Taylor, as you all know, is more of like a medical expert than I am. But of course, these are our personal experiences and are here only to, like, as Taylor said, like safe space and support others who maybe are also have gone through or are going through it. Because I kind of am in this mentality that like I really truly believe that like this is something that is like constantly within me.
100%.
But like I've now learned to like deal with it better.
Yeah. And it's also like, I think when especially when I was in it, this reality of being in it was not there for me. Like I was like
my delusion and
oh
delusion.
My God.
I don't even know if that's like the right word.
You know
like,
what's funny is I was thinking about this earlier when I was like, okay, what points do like I definitely want to hit when we talk about this, because this can kind of, you know, be a long conversation. But I was like the delusion of not, and it's not delusion. Delusion's not the word for it. No, it's not. It's just like you cannot see clearly.
It's also I think like your denial.
Oh yeah.
Too
yeah,
like
yeah.
You don't want to admit that like you're struggling with something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think every person that goes through it, there's like some commonality between us all, but then there's so many differences between like anybody's experience, and then anybody's healing journey too is so different.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about also like we have what we have now with this whole thing because we were two girls that were like trauma bonding for a second over, you know, though, like
over many things.
Over many things. How much time do we have? No, but yeah, that it's just, I don't know. It's a space thing. So I mean, like, I'm just gonna speak like vulnerably and like all of the things.
And truly, I don't think we've ever told each other like gone down
like the extensive
road, like,
story.
Very like high level.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just get into it.
No better way than to jump right in.
Head first into the concrete. Yeah. So I basically, what am I? I'm 32 now. So back when I was leaving high school to go to college, I guess was kind of like when this whole thing started for me. Also, like growing up, I was not a skinny mini teeny tiny girl. Like I'm short, but I was never like, I was always a little bit of a chunkopotamus. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just never
the lightness within the darkness.
Like that was just always me. Yeah. And like I don't know if it was like the time that we grew up or like what it was, but I always knew that I was a little bit of a chunkopotamus. And then like you hit that growth spurt like in high school. Yeah. My spurt was clearly not very like high, but like I did gain some height at some point, and like I thinned out a little bit, and then that was when I like started to like I guess pay attention, because I was trying to think earlier, like when did the body dysmorphia begin?
Yeah. It's also like 90s, 2000s, like you've got that external shit that like affects you too.
Yeah, and I think that we were not dealing with mental health stuff the way that we are currently dealing with. And my family they are very, and this is like no hate, no shade to anybody's culture, but my mom's side of the family and like everybody that I grew up with are very Italian Catholic people. And so like they're loud and like they have opinions and they believe what they believe, and that's, you know, that is what it is. But it was like, you don't talk about, like, you don't have problems. No. Like
Anxiety like wasn't a thing.
No, it was like suck it the fuck up and don't like keep that shit to yourself, pull it together and like
almost
get on.
embarrassing if you had it at that point.
Yeah. So it was like it wasn't something that you ever like dealt with. So, and I don't know if there was like comments that was said because there was no social media back then. You know, when you were in. Could you imagine in 8th grade like having the social media that these 8th graders
people,
have?
No.
Oh my god.
Like not only like the bullying online, like there was that growing up, but it's just like it's so. I feel like it can be
remember
so much more
old school when you got bullied to your face?
Yeah, this is now like it was horrible.
Oh my god, yeah, no, awful. But yeah, so like I always had like a weird. I don't know, like a weird like body thing. Like I wasn't as self-conscious about it when I was younger, but it was a thing. And then like fast forward into my more like older teenage adult life, I had like a like catastrophic switch in my family dynamic. And then I went to college and then it was like family dynamic. My mom and I are very close and like best friend like close almost. So like she was going through a lot and suffering through a lot and she was kind of using me as her support system, which is like
heavy.
It's hard because you're like, it's my fucking mom. Like I can't be like, bitch, I gotta study, like hit the road, you know, like you. So I had like family dynamic. I was trying to be my mom's person. Then it was college and it's like I was a chem major, which is like
my worst subject.
Like, you know, like there was things to be learned and I was like trying to like kind of keep up with that. And then I was trying to party all the time because that's just like what you do. Like I just, from all angles, it felt like my life was like
out of control.
And so that's like the biggest, and I didn't know this then, obviously. I've been therapized to the death and like now I realize that this is what it was. But my eating disorder was a control thing.
100%.
A control thing. So like basically because of all of that jazz, and I don't even remember like how it started or where I got these ideas. I don't know if it was like movies or like what, but it started with me like feeling bad about myself after eating something that like whether it was like a plate of nachos or like whatever.
Yeah.
And I had gotten some guilt from that and I was like, well, we can just like, I've seen people, they just like throw this up and go on with their whole. So like my entire struggle was like bulimia, binge eat, purge, that kind of thing. And it went, you know, like for honestly a good chunk of like my college life, that was my story. And I thought I was slick and sly and that I was getting away with it and that like nobody knew. And I remember sophomore year of college, I had this like group of like 6 or 7 girlfriends. And at the time, like we lived in a dorm that was conjoined by a bathroom and like there was 4 of us that lived together. And I remember like coming back from class once and all my friends being over and they basically had like a baby intervention with me. Yeah. And they were like, listen, like we know what's up kind of. One of my friends at the time was in nursing school and she had like consulted one of her nursing professors just to be like, I have this friend, I think she has an issue, like I don't know how to deal. So they kind of like gave me this little intervention situation and I literally laughed in their faces and I was like, you guys, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. And I was like, it's obviously not about like I go to the gym, like it's not like I'm trying to be skinny, like yada, but like I was sincerely.
But what like good friends to like see that come to you.
And it's funny because like a couple of months ago, well no, like last summer I'd kind of gotten into like when I was getting my fitness groove stuff out, being an instructor and whatever. And like you post about stuff on social media and like I'm very like, if you work hard for whatever the hell you work hard for, whether that's like your body or your like dream, whatever it is, and you want to flex that shit on social media, go off. Like I don't think that we should sit here and judge anybody for anything.
No,
and so I started posting more like workout stuff and fitness stuff. And I had some guy that I like went to high school with or something who at one point had asked me out and like I turned him down kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he slid into my DMs and was just like, you know, that like you actually have a great personality and like all these things, you don't need to like flex your abs on social media for attention kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I lost it. I like posted this Instagram. It's just like a shot of me at the gym in the mirror and it just was like, for a very long time, I had like a very bad eating disorder. Had you asked me at the time, I would have told you I didn't have a problem. And like now in my 30s, I'm like the healthiest I've ever been. So if I choose to flex that on social media, like
I'm going to.
And I don't want to hear it. It's not
saying
also
something.
Public service announcement to the small percentage of men right now that are watching. We will have more. Women do not post their outfit or their workout set or any of their shit on social media for you. Is it sometimes grabbing attention because 100%. You did them wrong? For sure. But like, women sometimes just fucking post a picture of them before they go out because they like their outfit and the way that they look.
And they also are like, fuck yeah. Like and they're showing it off to like their friends, their women, like women people. Like I often feel like men are like they sexualize
everything.
Like every little detail of women. And it's like, dude, I'm not doing this for you.
For
like,
you at all.
Stop having like your ego get into this because it's actually not about you.
Not even close.
That's so demeaning as well for him to come at you like that after like not knowing anything. And I think that's things too, like comments from women, comments from men, because women do it too, where they don't even know your story and they're assuming something about you.
This just happened to me actually like this past weekend. I like pick up time still for like people who don't know, but I pick up time still at an outpatient cancer center, blah, blah, blah. It was a prior nursing contract that I had done. I really like the people, they need the help, etc. I had been in an outside work event. And like when I go to the hospital, I don't have glam on in normal clothes. Yeah. I'm in scrubs and like, you know, the light of day has left my eyes. So I go to this is the second time now I've been out like at an event with people who aren't used to seeing me like that. And like the amount of people, like I remember turning to Thomas, like my boyfriend at one point, being like, I'm so uncomfortable. People that come up to you and they're just like, oh my God, you're so skinny. You're so skinny. Oh my God, you look so, like, how do you look like that? You're so, and like 10 years ago, I would have loved that fuck. In the height of my shit, I would have been like, my friend told me I had temporal wasting once and I was like, yes, I do, bitch.
I don't even know what that is.
Like here, you can see like bone in your skull.
I don't think my friends were smart enough. Love you guys.
Oh my God. She's like, I think you have temporal wasting. Are you stressed? I was like, thank you so much. Like, what do you mean? No, but like and it's just like they mean well, but it's just like, I don't know. It just makes me so uncomfortable to like.
I think it's a different compliment as well when you struggle with disordered eating at some point in your life, that like those compliments are something that like you used to thrive on.
Yeah.
And when you hear it now, when you're in recovery, post recovery, whatever it is, it like hits you in a different way. Like people probably don't mean to say it in a bad, like
no,
in a
no, and it's
bad
not,
way.
No, not at all.
It's more just like that compliment doesn't actually mean what you mean it to mean.
Right,
to
like
me.
I'm not receiving it the way you're giving it.
Yes. Okay, back to like when your friends came into your apartment.
Yes. So my friends, they sat me down. They were like, we think you have a problem, blah, 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 blah.
And you said no.
I was like, you guys are out of your mind. Like, I'm totally fine. That was like literally like the end of the conversation. Then, so I had started making myself sick in like freshman year. This was sophomore year. So we've already been like a year into, and then junior and senior year, I moved off campus as everybody does with this same group of girls. And it was like, we would have parties or like, it would be the middle of the week or whatever. And it's like, this is like kind of a lot of TMI, but like it would be, someone would be like, there's like vomit on the toilet. Like, and I would be like, guys, it's not me. Like we just had a party here. Like obviously someone got sick.
Else.
Yeah. Like crazy stuff. Like so much so that I convinced myself, I was like, this is just something that I do sometimes. This is not
a
problem. And like, it probably spanned from the time that I was a freshman up until like, it probably went on and off for like 8 years or so, probably way more aggressive in the beginning. Cause there was days where it was every day. There was days where it was multiple times a day. There was, you know, like I remember my favorite, I was a bartender in college, which was like the greatest thing I ever did. But like, I remember coming home at like 3 o'clock in the morning and being so psyched that like everyone was already like passed out or like hammered or whatever, because I could like, I could be like, fuck around and like eat this McDonald's that I just got and then like make it like it never happened.
And no one will know.
Yeah,
it's
and
like a secret.
Yeah. So I even was in like a 6-year-long relationship prior and like barely spoke to my ex about it. Like he knew later in life,
shameful.
But it is.
You don't want to like, you don't share what goes on in here, you know, in your head.
Especially to like people who have the mentality of like, mental health's not a thing. Like, you know, get it together kind of stuff. So basically that was my life like on and off for a very long time. And I remember like coming home from college sometimes and like going to parties or things with some of my like best home friends. And like, I remember being really drunk one time and like mentioning it to one of my best friends and her being like, wait, what? And like, I kind of like was like really emotional about it. And then she was just like, I don't really know what's happening right now. And I was like, right, let's not discuss this ever again. Like, it was kind of like one of those things where.
Do you think you were like subconsciously like, help me?
Reaching for help? Yeah, a little bit. But then it's funny because like when it was in front of me, I was like, I'm not interested. No. Yeah. And then honestly, so like in the midst of this whole thing going on, I think at some point I had Googled like, what are the long-term things that could happen from this? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I actually stumbled upon a like forum with like threads that was like strictly to hype people up about like.
Oof. Gosh, it's crazy that exists.
Crazy, right? And I remember reading this being like, this is fucking nuts.
Isn't it crazy though that you're like, wait, I like can do this to myself, but reading it for other people
made me like, I was like, I cannot.
Because you mentally are like, this isn't right, but I can't stop.
But yes, you like disassociate entirely from like, and it was just, I think what it always was is that I knew and you're taught and you learned that you can fix like what happens on the outside to a degree, right? Yeah. Like you can control what you look like in the gym to a certain degree. You can control what you eat to a certain degree. You can control what makeup you buy, how you do your hair.
You also can go and get a nose job, a hair implants,
all these things,
whatever,
like
laser hair removal,
everything. And I think that's what it was, is like on the inside and like in my emotional life, like so much shit was just like constantly all over that I was like, I've learned now that like I do not do well with like the unknown. I don't have control. I've never had like issues with controlling other people, but control over my own life, oh my God, is like it's a thing for me that I still work through like now. So I think because I was just like, everything is so out of control, this I can fix. Yeah. And like, this is what I'm going to fix.
You can control that.
Yeah.
You can control, I put whatever, I purge whatever, like it is very much like a constraint that like you have this like, when everything else feels so out of control, you're like, this is one thing that I do. And I can control when and what and you also emotionally, I think, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, but you're like, I can stop.
Right. Like yes. Like I would get to a point where it would, like a week would go by and it wouldn't be something that I did. And I was like, see, like no problem.
Yeah.
Like I have this under control. Yeah. Like, yeah. And the best part about it is like you're doing these things and you get like put in these awful traumatic situations because of like other things that you can't control in your life. And at the end of the day, it doesn't actually make you feel better.
No.
But you're like, you convince yourself that like the next time.
It's like a high and then almost like, and again, mine's different because I wasn't bulimic or struggled with bulimia, but I understand that high and then shame or guilt after, but then you want that high again.
It's like addiction and like
all like 100%.
Like and the whole entire thing, and that's the way that like it felt. It was just like one of those things that you're like, anytime, like this could not be my like life anymore.
How do you feel like, what was like your turning point of?
So I think, and not that this is great either, but I think at some point, like towards the end, my perspective of my own wellness shifted. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, at some point I just was like, this is not healthy. And like, I cannot continue to like manage whatever it is that I'm managing this way. And I shifted from bulimia occasionally like trickling into like, there would be times where months would go by and then I would have a day or like whatever. But I went from that end of the spectrum to the gym guilt, beat myself up in the gym, punish myself at the gym end of the spectrum, which I think, and like obviously I can't speak for anybody, but I think that tends to happen a little bit in the fitness industry because you're just like, that's how people become so familiar and like so.
And that's like the cardio.
Yes, yes. Like
because that's kind of all you know.
Right. And you're just looking for some kind of relief from something. And so you take one vice and turn it into.
Totally. Were you in therapy at all?
No. So this is the craziest part about it is I didn't even actually start going to therapy until pandemic. I was a travel nurse in Boston. First time I saw a therapist,
Wow.
which was in 20. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I mean-
so imagine now you're my therapist. Well, I had to go through a couple first, but imagine now you're my therapist, and she's like, and how the fuck did we get to where we are now?
Yeah.
Because like,
Well, that's what I'm wondering too, is like, because you really had yourself.
Yeah.
That was like, I'm going to stop. And then you recognize, okay, I'm like, quote unquote, like abusing the gym or I'm abusing myself at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And then got to a point where you're like, okay, I'm finding balance.
yeah.
Prior to a therapist. Like, that is like so rare.
It's
what were
hard.
you talking to yourself like? Like,
I don't know. I think I just came to terms, like one day I was just like, this is not.
were you reading stuff? Were you, I know I'm asking like really gritty questions,
No.
but I'm
Ask
like,
them.
were you reading something? Were you Googling? Were like, did social, like, I'm trying to think of like what came up at that time, because like, it's so hard to fight that high without someone
I
like
know.
holding your hand.
And I think I just got to the point where I stopped. The bulimia became a part of me, and it was like defining me in a way to myself, because like a lot of people didn't know, obviously. Most people in my life didn't know. And I just was like, I do not want to live this way anymore. And so when I say I switched vices, like I started burying myself in the gym. And then I think it just like, I mean, people say things too, you know, like you have people that are close to you that are just like, you're at the gym every day, or you're this every day. And you're kind of just like, you know, that it's not like the greatest. And then in a way, I somehow subconsciously, like over time, then started using the gym for like stress and other things. So it was more like when I started the gym journey that like became healthier, I think I just was like, this is the only way I know how to like dump my problems, kind of thing.
Totally.
So that's like where it was. And then I hit a literal rock bottom, to the point where like the type of depression where you're like crying every day and you're like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm crying about.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm at work, I'm like in the med room, and I'm like sobbing over an antibiotic, and I'm like, you gotta get the fuck together, sister. You know, like this is not.
I've been that over like commercials where I'm like, this is a Jardiance commercial. Why am I crying?
Like, and I'm just like, oh my god, that feeling of like so sad. Like my worst enemy in the world. I don't wish that feeling of so sad and so
There's
low on.
one I could.
Yeah, you're like off the top of my head. There's a couple that but yeah. So then that's when I was like, I need to see somebody, because like this is not right. Like I should not feel like this. And then I think once I started the therapy journey, then I got into like a more healthy lifestyle with like fitness and stuff. But it really was like one vice to another.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this sounds so terrible, but like I don't know if I just was like, I'm sick of punishing myself this way. Let's try something else.
Probably. I mean, I don't know. Our brains work in really weird ways where it's almost like that becomes like boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which I mean, I was like what, 10 years on and off. Like at some point I just was like, this is not doing it for me anymore, which sounds so sick in the head, but like that's I think what it was. And then I was like, let's switch it up. How else can we like make
what else can I control
to
allow myself in some way, whether it's probably not making you feel better, but mentally you're thinking, this is going to make me feel better.
And the eating disorder being a control thing is a control thing, but then with that comes like, now I have body dysmorphia because the thing I've been doing for the control thing is a body image thing. And then like, if I think I've mentioned this on an episode before, but like I used to get out of bed in the morning and the first thing I'd do is look at myself in the mirror and be like, your stomach's like, you have fat here, you're gross here, you're gross there. And
so relatable. And that is a practice you have to fucking change.
God.
It's so hard to look at yourself and not, for me, and I think for many women and men, to not look at yourself and be like, my thigh gap, my this, my that. And then you have to like pause, and that's something that I've really practiced is like, nope, say something nice. Like you've even said, say something nice about yourself.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you have to just like start, because you start to believe the thoughts that you continue to like tell yourself.
Yeah, it's like that whole study that they did, like, and I don't even know. Usually I can reference the location, dates, test subjects, the whole thing off the top of my head. But right now, this study where like they took this like room full of plants, and like half of the room they said negative things and like negative energy to these plants, and they all died. And like the other half of the room, like,
I mean, I believe it.
The plants that you were like, you're so pretty today, like flourished kind of thing. It's like it's totally what it is. If you tell yourself enough fucking times like you're disgusting,
100%,
you're like,
you start to believe
I'm disgusting.
Versus being like, I'm so smart, I'm so brilliant, I'm so amazing, I'm beautiful, I'm whatever it is, my smile is great, my eyes are so bright, whatever it is, like you start to believe and you start to really feel and embody that. But I don't think we were ever, to your point from before, like we were never taught these things growing up.
No.
And like now, you know, there's so many things like, you know, with children and how you raise them and whatever. Neither of us have children, but like it's such a different world that now mental health is such a thing that like we support as they grow up.
Right. Instead of when it's like you're 900 years deep in trauma shit that you have to now go back and undo,
and
which is
figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that exercise where you, like, your therapist or somebody tells you, like, look at yourself in the mirror naked for like 3 minutes and like you have to look at yourself the whole time? Have you ever heard of that?
So I've never done it naked.
Okay.
I've done it dressed and just kind of like sat to myself and looked at myself, like, and it was like mentally stop yourself from saying like the bad things and say all the good things about yourself, which is hard.
Yeah.
But I've also had a lot of practice where I used to literally look at myself every day and be like, this is ugly. This, oh, I'm so fat. I'm so this. I'm so whatever it was. And so it's a practice. You had to do that? Look at yourself naked?
I had read, so again, like this was all before I was getting therapy and stuff, but I had seen like, I don't remember, like some, like whether it was like Kelly Clarkson or some famous person who was going through like some kind of like weight situation where they were like having an open conversation about it. And they were like, my therapist told me, you know, I think actually I just saw, honestly, like on a TikTok or something that Meghan Trainor just talked about having to do the same thing, but that a therapist recommended that they look at themselves in the mirror for like 3 or 5 minutes or something, and just, you have to, you can't look away, you can't. So a long time ago,
you gotta be ready for that.
Yeah, a long time ago, I was like, let me just, maybe this is the cure. And like 20 seconds in, I was like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
like,
that's like, you gotta be, I feel like, note to everybody, you've gotta be like ready and willing to like probably cry or go down whatever road that takes you, but also like maybe consult a therapist first.
Yeah.
I don't know. Note to everybody out there before you're
don't be like,
Taylor
this girl
told
on
me.
this podcast told me to do this exercise. Now I hate myself even more than I did yesterday, and it's all her fault. No. But yeah, no, I see it all the time. I see people talk about it all the time, so I'm like, I wonder how many people
that could be really therapeutic, but I think you have to be like willing to go there.
Yeah. 100%, because
that can go one way or the other, and I don't know.
Yeah, because like without fail, that was like my thing to do, and like get out of bed, look at yourself in the mirror, pick out everything you hated about yourself, brush your teeth. Like it was like part of the routine.
100. I think subconsciously.
Yeah, well, you couldn't skip it.
No,
you couldn't
like
no days off.
Myself, and it's not like, oh wow, like I woke up really pretty. It's like, oh God, what can I fix about myself right now?
And I hit all the angles too. Like I was turning to the side to look at the belly pooch, like the whole, like I was hitting the 360 in the mirror.
It became like a high.
To
literally beat yourself up.
Yeah. And a lot of it is like self-love that like you just don't have.
No,
like,
it's like it's a practice.
Yeah.
I really believe self-love is like, if you grew up loving yourself, props to your parents and props to everybody around you and your teachers and the random person on the street. But I don't think that self-love is like something that like inherently, maybe like as a child, like baby. But I think as you grow up, like there's so much in the world that's around you that's like kind of like makes you question that love for yourself, and it just diminishes. And so you got to practice like building that up, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's not like an instinct.
No.
That's for sure. And I think that it's like once you get into the mindset of being able to like shift towards paying more attention to that, that's when you start to like heal as far as I saw somebody, or like Shay Mitchell did this interview where she was like, someone was asking her like, what would you say to a girl who was like really upset that her boyfriend like cheated on her or like wasn't giving her attention, blah blah, and she like basically cut the girl off, and she was like, she needs to love herself more. And like I heard that and I was like, that's
well,
like,
because we put the power of love in so many other people versus ourselves.
Yeah,
like we put this like pedestal of like, especially when you're struggling with disordered eating, you're like, okay, what does everybody else think of me? Not what do you think of yourself?
Yeah. Because at times, I think the what does everybody else think of me, even if it's nasty, it's a little nicer than what you're actually telling yourself. So you prefer to hear.
You're your worst critic. Like you are the hardest person on yourself for no reason.
Yeah.
But I'm still hard on myself. But
right. And I think that can be good and and
And
bad too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is my
your story. Well, thanks for sharing.
oh yeah, no, anytime.
Well, mine's like similar. I think the control thing, when I think about like the control aspect of your story, I'm like, yeah, relatable. Like 100%. The whole with food, that is one thing that you can control. So I was a 1990 baby, so I'm 34. And in high school is when like Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, like that was
that
big.
movement, yeah.
And my friends and I
There's
decided,
some 19-year-old listening to this being like, who the fuck is Jenny Craig?
yeah, like what are these?
What are they talking about?
With my friends, we all decided some were going to do Weight Watchers and some were going to do Jenny Craig. And this was like,
I love that team effort.
Like this was like totally okay. I went to weekly meetings. I remember thinking in the weekly meetings, like in my head, like these people probably think I like don't have weight to lose, but like I'm not at my goal weight yet.
Yeah.
My goal weight was lower than it should have been, 100%. But this also was like 2005. And
2005 was when Stick Thin was popping off.
And so I think that weights were low, whatever. And the high of going in and weighing yourself every week with the Weight Watchers person who was like, you lost 0.3 pounds. And you're like, oh my God, yes. And then when you hit your goal weight, it's like you're celebrated. Jordan just hit her goal weight and everybody's like clapping for you. And
okay, and how old were you at this time?
16, 17, 18.
Wild.
No, I wasn't 18 because I didn't go to college till 18. So yeah, like
wild. Okay.
Young, like very young. But as I started losing weight, I started getting compliments. You look so good. You're so skinny. What are you doing? Oh my God. And we talked about this last week. I was also seeing a personal trainer who was making me lift heavy. And I was like, I am getting way too bulky. You're fired. I don't work with you anymore. Because everything was it wasn't even about muscle. It was about how skinny can I be. So I'm, going to college. I will say when I was going to college freshman year, I probably was at like a healthy weight. Like I probably was fine. I'm not going to say numbers here because that can be really triggering for people, but probably at a healthy weight. I get into college and I loved my roommate, and I think she's amazing to this day. She was a dancer, and I also danced in high school, but I think with dancers, similar to myself, there's a lot of trauma that came, especially like 90s, 2000s, early dancers, whatever. And so she also was very thin. And I remember being like, oh, I want to be as thin as her.
Yeah.
And
same thing. I was a dancer. And when you're around like those ballet girls that are like 6 feet tall, stick thin, you're like, God damn.
And she also was like a foot taller than me. And I was like, I want to be that tall and that skinny. Yeah. And maybe like if I'm skinnier, I'll look taller. Whatever it was.
Yeah.
I also read the book Skinny Bitch.
Me too. Oh my God. I used to advertise it to people. I'm like, you guys read this book?
Have you read it? We're doing like horrible shit to the animals, and
we're doing awful shit. There's like a line in it that's like, you lazy fat fuck, if you don't get off your couch and like do X, Y, and Z.
So after I read that book, I was like, I'm not eating meat anymore. I'm a vegetarian.
Yep. Oh, girl, a vegetarian myself.
Did I even fucking care about
the animals? No, bitch.
No. And PETA, don't come at me because I do care about the animals, but I literally, at this point, my mindset was like, another excuse to cut out a food group. I'm cutting out meat. So I would literally, I remember this, I would go to the cafeteria and I would get a wheat wrap and fill it with vegetables and mustard. How fucking gross is this combo? And that was my lunch.
Delicious.
And then for dessert, it was like goldfish pretzels and a little bit of granola because I can't have too much sugar. And I saw my weight continue to decrease. And then I would run like 5 miles on the treadmill, and then like do a 10-minute ab because like YouTube 10-minute abs, or I think it was 7-minute abs were like such a big thing. And I'd be like, okay, I worked out at the gym, but that's all I knew was running and 7-minute abs. And my weight kept declining. And throughout college, I was a very, very, very low weight. And friends would like come up to me, but the only reason they would say something is 2 reasons. The only time I really let myself eat was when I was drinking. So I would drink and get drunk. I would steal my roommate's food, eat all their food. And literally I'd have to buy them food the next day and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like I ate your frozen pizza. And like I wouldn't even cook it. Like, I I would just eat whatever. And then they never really like confronted me in any way. It was more when I went abroad. The girl I went abroad with had noticed that like I was drinking a lot. I would only eat when I drank. I would black out. I was not eating during the day. And I was excessively running, like running. I would run marathons and my fuel would be vegetables, 0 protein, 0 carbs, like not fueling in the proper way. And my dad used to say, Jordan, I'll pay you $100 if you eat a burger. And I was like, I don't want a burger. I want the salmon. And Dad? It was like a denial similar to you, where I just was like, I don't have a problem. No. And I did grow up going to therapy, but I think at this point, and I'll tell you a story, I didn't have a good therapist. So after college, I was still in this denial phase. Like, I think, when I was younger and even in college, I did struggle with anxiety. And it wasn't until later in college that I think the food, like control of food, what I ate and what I didn't eat, and then the exercise like wasn't helping anymore. So I was having like small panic attacks while I was sleeping. And I got prescribed something to help me sleep. But it wasn't really solving the issue of anxiety. It was more like laugh. Like I've always gone to therapy. And when I was younger, my therapist was like, do you have anxiety? And we were like,
anxiety? No.
She thinks I've
never
anxiety.
Heard
like,
of her.
So weird.
Yeah.
Until later when I was like, I'm like having panic attacks, sleeping, like, okay. And I think it was because like I couldn't control this anymore. And that high I'd become so used to that it just didn't suit me anymore. Like it didn't help me. So I graduate college and I moved to New York. And in New York is when I think things really shifted from over exercise and restriction to binge and restriction. And I had a horrible, horrible roommate situation, and we can go into that another day. But long story short, she bleached my clothes and cut my purses. It was great times.
Amazing, love her.
And from that point on, I felt so uncomfortable where I lived. Prior to this even, I didn't know how to control it, so I would binge. And I would take laxatives to purge.
I did the laxatives thing too.
Throwing up, like I cried every time I ever threw up, so I would take laxatives. True story. I've shit my pants before. Because
you can't fucking help it.
No.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the lowest points. But at this point, I was going to a therapist.
And it's like, where did we even learn to do that?
I don't know. Like, and now I wonder, like, why is my gut so fucked up?
And you're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Oh, yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And I was going to a therapist in New York, and I remember telling her this story about, like, I binge and I purge, and, like, I feel so out of control, and, like, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, I don't understand. Like, you're really pretty. And I remember just, like, this feeling that I was like, huh? And I remember getting on the phone with my mom after therapy, and I was like, she just told me I'm pretty. And my mom was like, that's it, she's fired, you're getting a new therapist.
Yeah, like.
And at this point still, I had moved out of the apartment, and I still was like dealing with this like binge, restrict, binge, laxative. Like I was still in this cycle. And it wasn't until this amazing, amazing therapist made me do the hard work. Yeah. I don't think like that's so fucking strong that you were able to be like, this is not good. I knew it wasn't good. I knew what I was doing was like not right. And I knew that like my food labels, I'm like, this is good and this is bad. And if I eat the bad, then I can't eat the good, or I can't eat anything tomorrow. And I need to like save my calories for dinner late, like all of these mental things that I would tell myself, but I wasn't strong enough to do it on my own.
Well, but also like I recognized that it was bad, but I just went from like eating whatever the fuck I wanted and throwing it up to then just like punishing myself at the gym. So it's like
it's still, I didn't know how to stop. Like I didn't know how I could eat normal. Like what was eating normal? Yeah. To me, I genuinely was like, at this point I was like, do I just go back on Weight Watchers?
Right.
Like, is that normal eating? Like, because I was having like 3 meals a day and snacks, but I was eating certain points. Like, I don't think people teach you how to eat normal.
No.
And so I really had to, one, not even like relearn to eat, but I had to relearn like my triggers for anxiety, because it wasn't like, running a marathon is an amazing accomplishment. And I'm so proud of myself for doing them. But I'm also I didn't do it for the joy of running I did it because I was like, this is going to make me stay skinny.
Because I'm going to burn so many fucking calories 100%. On this 26-mile run.
100%. And then I was like, and then I'm not going to like really give myself a treat. Like I'm just going to have like some salad.
Yeah.
And so like I'm damaging my body, whatever. And so I really had to like, talk through all the darkness that's inside my head. And like, I can't pinpoint a time that was like, this girl called me this, or this is the reason. I think it was like this societal pressure to look a certain way. And if you don't look a certain way, you're not accepted. Mm-hmm. And especially growing up, like, I had girlfriends who were a part of a group of friends, and then I wasn't a part of them anymore. And I was like, is it because I'm not pretty? Is it because I'm not skinny enough? Is it because I'm not this? And I can pinpoint all these things, and, I don't know. I don't have the answer to like why it started. But I think, it stems way deeper to like an anxiety and that control. And I think the high of like, I can control how much I put in my body, how little I put in my body, and then how I dispose of it. And whether that's through excessive exercise, whether it's through a laxative, whatever it was. And until I sat down with a therapist and went through the like deep darkness or like my feelings, my emotions, and then talking to myself like mentally, like to this day, my therapist and I will be like, that's Ed talking. We call my eating disorder Ed. And so it's like, there's still times where like, I just posted today on social media where I'm like, I now can be at a meal with my friends and focus on the conversations we're having versus focusing on like, she just took another fry. I can take another fry.
Yeah.
Because I still sometimes like that thought comes in my head and I'm like, stop. Like, stop right there. Go away. Because it is something that like you have to practice, that art of like, I don't need to dispose or purge or whatever of what I ate. I don't need to restrict the next day. I'm fueling myself. I'm using food as fuel. And I think there's a point where I did, gain more weight and balancing out to a quote unquote, like normal, healthy weight for me was figuring out how much do I eat? What do I eat? What's good for me? What's bad for me? What is fullness? Like, what does fullness feel
even
like?
Mean? Yeah.
Because I know being full to a point of making yourself sick.
Yes.
But I didn't know what a healthy full was. I didn't know what too little was. I didn't even know what a proper protein size looked like.
Right.
And so these were all things that I really had to like look deep into. And I don't think I would have gone there had I not gone to therapy and really looked at my why and my emotions and everything. And that's, it's not easy to do, and you have to be willing to do it. And I had some amazing friends throughout the entire time that were looking out for me, but I don't think people know what to say when you're in it.
Yeah. And it's like, especially because when they think they're saying the right thing and then you are like, immediately like, no, then it's just, then I imagine that they're like, shit, did we just like.
I think I've turned it around. I've been like, you guys are like judging me and it feels really blah, blah.
Anything you can to be like, this is not,
I don't think people know what to say. Like there's a quote unquote like a clinical way to go through, how to intervene with someone. And I think that people don't, and I don't know at this point like what someone should say to someone, because everybody's experience is different. But I think I'm grateful that my friends did say something. I would never not be grateful for them. I don't think I was ready to heal when they did.
And I think that was like my thing too. I think when I looked at them and I was like, I don't have a problem, I genuinely believed that. So it was like, I couldn't receive any of. And then for a minute there, like I was like, wow, like they're kind of bitches for like.
They're literally coming at me. And they don't even know what I'm going through.
Yeah. And it's like, that was never the narrative.
I think there was never a point that was like, they're also jealous.
Like, right.
As sick as that is, like, I was like, yeah, they're just like jealous because like I look like this or I'm this or whatever it is. And I think obviously, everybody's experience is different. And, from obviously we have similarities through what we went through, but still our experiences are different. But I think that it's so complicated too,
It is. And especially because like, I wish, like, there's such a stigma around the eating disorder too, and whether that's bulimia or anorexia or overeating or like whatever, because we always forget like the overeating and the overexercising also count as like
even the body dysmorphia or the like way that we look at ourselves in the mirror and talk to ourselves. Like I remember putting my feet together, pulling my thighs apart and being like, okay, how can I get a bigger thigh gap? Because remember, like thigh gap was legit a
thigh
thing.
Gap gate was a thing.
I think it was like Facebook or Instagram or whatever it was. And it was like, if you didn't have a thigh gap, then like, what did you have?
Right.
And I just remember being like, okay, what can I do to get my thigh gap? Like, I think I literally was like, maybe I'll just like go get liposuction, which is a sick fucking thought.
It is. No, it is. It is. Because you like start to be like, what's the next like easily available method for me to like participate in this without staying the course of how I'm participating. And I think, you know, like it's so funny because it's just like, I don't even know where I learned that behavior either. Like, I don't know where I learned to like be at prom or ball and see all of my friends and like their dresses and be like, they're so like, I wish I looked like that. Like, I wish I think I don't even know where that came from.
You know, if you remember like the magazines like Us Weekly or Life and Style, whatever the magazine is.
Yeah.
But like what it said on like the front page was like, she gained X amount of pounds, and it was like she probably wasn't even overweight. She probably looked normal now to today's standards. But I also think that like that wasn't acceptable back then. Things and times have changed so much because people are willing to speak up against all of it, and they're willing to speak up against trying to look a certain way, be a certain size. Like think about all the stores that like only carried up to like a size whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now they carry up to whatever size now because it's like there is no one size fits all.
No, there's not.
And my body is different than yours. I metabolize things different than you. I react one way to something. Like, it's just everything is so different. And I just think the times are so different. And I think that's something that like as we learn as adults now, we can like carry this forward to like other generations of
the
like
sizing thing too is so crazy because like I remember being like I'm a small person like just stature wise, and like I remember being like an extra small and I refused like because I did also like with like bulimia and binging and purging and stuff, there's not necessarily like a crazy weight shift between like you're super skinny or you're overweight. Like most people that do have that practice like tend to just look the way like an average whatever. And I remember like putting on a little bit of weight in college, honestly, just because it's fucking college and whatever. And I remember being like, I'm not buying a medium. Like I refuse to be a medium. So I would be uncomfortable in my clothes that I already owned because it was better for me to fit into that small even if it didn't fit the way it used to.
Girl.
Than for me to buy a medium.
Girl. I have to give myself a pat on the back because that is something I just recently did. I was shopping and I was like, I used to be this size. Like forever in my mind says I'm this size because that's what I was throughout this entire like disordered eating journey. And I finally was like, I'm not that fucking size. And the fact that I'm trying to squeeze into all of these things like is almost making me feel worse and brings on those disordered eating thoughts. So I was like, I'm going to buy a bigger size. And when I got it, I was like, I feel like my eating disorder is trying to tell me like you need to lose weight. And then I was like, nope, we're stopping that right there. I feel good. I look good. That's all that matters. And I'm not trying to squeeze into something that I'm not, because our bodies change as we get older. I don't know, just like things change. And I have to give myself a pat on the back because I was like very proud that I was like,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to buy a size that actually fits me versus try to squeeze into something that like maybe I could zip up, but like is going to make me feel worse about myself.
And like the fact that we subject ourselves to being these like prisoners of a fucking number.
Oh, I literally had a conversation with the girl at Zara and I was like, this isn't my size anymore. And she was like, girl, she's like, some days I'm a large, some days I'm an extra large, other days I'm a small. She's like, the sizing doesn't make sense. And I almost got a high off of it being like, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the validation I
but
needed
it
there.
is like all of these things that like I still, you know, play around with in my mind that I have to remember, like, no, that is, and, you know, my therapist says you could say stop. You could say that's Ed talking, whatever works for you to kind of just like tell yourself like those are irrational thoughts that you're having because of your disordered eating, and you have the power to like change that thought in your head.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem. I mean, a lot of things would, whether it's eating disorder, it's trauma, it's fitness routine, it's like a lot of it stems back to like, how the fuck are you talking to yourself?
100%.
And like how can you change that too? Which it's like you read all these self-help books and like it just says that over and over again, and people are like, what's the real trick? Like,
yeah,
there's no way me every day just being like, you're pretty fucking cool is gonna like turn my life around. But like it really is like,
it's a mental, physical, everything game changer when you start to like speak to yourself differently, you start to look at yourself differently. And I think that's like that whole shift. But it's easier because of our habits and the way that we've been to just like shit talk ourselves. You know, like it's like gossip. Like it's almost like gossiping about yourself, because how fun is it to gossip about whatever?
Yeah, sure.
And it's like it's like that same high that we're used to.
Yeah. Well, I'm very proud of you.
I'm proud of you too.
In your whole journey and all the things.
I feel like obviously, you know, this was a tough and deeper conversation, but I guess let's end with like one thing that you love about yourself and you're proud of yourself for now, where you are. I asked that on the fly. I didn't make her.
She did. We didn't rehearse this ahead of time. There's a whole fucking outline laying underneath my leg about what we were going to talk about. That's not on it.
Because I just feel like it's so heavy.
It is. And it's hard. It's nice to challenge somebody sometimes to like, I'm a firm believer. Like I will always say this, like I hate to use the word pusher, but like I always want to push people to like be a little bit of a better version of themselves every day. And like you looking at me being like, what's one thing you love about yourself? That's you pushing me. And I like, not a lot of people do that for me because I'm typically the pusher. So I would say one thing like I really love about myself is that I am just like I'm just a fucking go-getter, do-it person. Like, yes, I really am. Like, I think that if you want and to have or do or be, you can have or do or be with, like, the effort. And, like, I'm a really fucking hard worker because of that thing. So I would say that that's, like, my favorite quality.
Yes, you are.
Thank you, about myself.
Yes, you are.
Was there follow-up? What was the second piece?
I think that was it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. No, you have to go.
I think it's funny because I was about to say something and I'm like, but
yeah, no.
And I'm like, I have
what's
so
that
many
saying?
things.
It's like if you say something and then you say but, you might as well just fucking not said whatever you said before the
I mean,
but.
I was about to. I would say I think I have the ability to lighten and light up a room in 100%. The sense that like when I come in, I feel like my energy and, you know, I think this is felt from like a workplace to a classroom, and by classroom I mean a fitness classroom. But I feel like it's something that I've really started to just like love about myself, is that like I just think there's something that I exude that can help others hopefully feel that energy too.
I mean, that's how I describe you to most people. Like when I talk about you to people who don't know you, I'm always like, the only way I can describe Jordan is like, in a way we're very similar, but we're polar opposites in that she is this like light positivity. And like, I
mean, I literally said at the beginning of the podcast too that you are literally like, hey, get this done. I'm like, oh, okay, Taylor's wanting me to get it done, I'm gonna get it done. So like you are a very like get shit done and do it.
So like maybe
you also have beautiful eyes.
Thank you should always so much. Don't forget what I said about your teeth at the beginning.
We're basically in love.
But I think that's a good take home, right? Is like if you just like need a person to just keep you in check or like pick you up, like find that person, run with it. And like if anything that we said like resonated in a way and you're like want to drop us a DM or a comment and just be like, hey, like struggling with like,
and also like
the door is open
again. DM us, talk to us. Like this is a safe space, but also like if on a deeper note, like if you or someone you know are struggling, like please seek professional help. Like we are two girls that can relate to you and speak to you and truly create a safe environment for you. And so if that feels right, please do that. And just know that like you're not alone. You know, you're not alone. You're not wrong. You're not.
There is no, one of my favorite things to say in like a lot of different scenarios in life is there is no good, bad, right, or wrong.
Love it.
And that's exactly like what this entire conversation has been about.
Yeah.
So like if you need anything to cling to, like let it be that statement that there is no good, bad, right, or wrong.
Amen.
Also, it's come to our attention that we don't fucking tell anybody how to contact us or like reach out or anything.
Yeah, because no one knows that this podcast comes out every Tuesday now at midnight on Tuesday.
People were sick of waiting till they were like, I want to listen. I'm gonna drive to work, so we moved it to midnight. So Tuesday release at midnight. We are on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. All of the links are in our Instagram bio. Our Instagram, if you're not following us already, are The Girls Are Fine. That's our @ handle.
TikTok, same thing. TikTok is the same thing. The Girls Are Fine. And
people have been sliding into our DMs too, like with topic suggestions. Please continue to do that.
Yep.
Email also. Yeah.
Email thegirlsarefine@gmail.com. But please, like, don't be shy. If you're like, hey, you hit on this, can you go deeper? Hey, we want longer episodes, shorter episodes. We want a shit talking episode. Whatever it is. And also, like, all of the things that we've touched on in these first 4 episodes are things that I believe we will also go deeper and continue to talk about. And then let us know who you want to see on the pod. We've got a few
this is a big one. We got some really great people lined up.
Yeah.
Like we're super excited about it actually. And then we're planning on doing a little Q&A episode too. So all these things that you slide into our DMs, questions, topics, that kind of stuff, we're going to have a little like viewers app dedicated to you guys. So
it'll be fun.
It's going to be
lots
great.
of fun to come.
Lots of big coming. Yeah.
Yes.
Lots of big to end the year.
Heck yeah, that's weird.
Fuck me.
No, I mean that it's almost the end of the year.
No, I know.
Wow.
Crazy.
All right, well, clearly we're here for you. And as always, a reminder that everything's fine.